is 2002, Merced, California. A young boy has just finished watching his VHS rental of Mel Gibson's The Patriot for the second time in a row. After the movie is over, he begins to cry, like a lot. And then he proceeds to cry a little bit more, and then he ends up locking himself in the bathroom to cry in the corner for another hour and a half. See, this boy wasn't crying because Mel Gibson's The Patriot made him sad. He's crying because at the time, this movie was his source of escapism. After the movie is done, he realizes he has to go back to his world of low self-esteem, insecurity, and he can't explain why, but the feeling is so overbearing. The year is 2007. That same boy goes off to college, discovers hip-hop and spoken word as the perfect medium to channel his innermost thoughts. The year is 2011. That boy graduates from college and kind of forgets what it means to write. The year is 2017, and that boy finds purpose in writing again. And the year is 2018, and that same boy stands before you tonight at this mic. The title of this poem is called How I Made My Declaration of Independence from My Greatest Enemy. This is my return of the Jedi, the return of the essential I, the I that was a people of poetry, from a state of darkness to a state of transcendency. This was my poetic resplendence. When in the curse of human events it becomes necessary to circumvent, to dissolve that which is solvable. Those things a realist would deem improbable. A decent respect to opinion that I do declare, the cause of ill-fated clauses that impel this separation. My declaration, I declare this truth to be self-evident, that one day my greatest enemy shall no longer be relevant. But before I get into who my greatest enemy is, because you see, being vulnerable can be such a gamble, let me continue on with this little preamble. I separate from an empire of low self-esteem, the same type of empire that breathes stormtroopers into my lungs so that every time I would speak in conformity. I separate from an empire of grievances. 4 things that for up to the past 15 years have afflicted me. 1. I declare independence from hypermasculine notions. Those notions that keep me in a hyperloop of the mask that I'm in. Nothing is more poisonous to a man's spirit than the phrase man up. Man up. As if anything else makes you feel weak, or being scathingly told that men don't cry, or I'm too nice of a guy. As if being too nice is an impediment that further the gap of detriment between being a bitch and being a man. Whoa. Sticks and stones, all right. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but there are some words that cut so deep they cut you off, leaving you feeling so alone. And why are words like kindness and sensitivity kryptonite to the manliest of men? Aren't kindness and sensitivity tools to allow one to be honest with themselves? Isn't being honest with yourself the greatest strength of all? Because acting like a tough guy all the time doesn't mean you get to stand so tall. So I will learn to have better posture and declare that hypermasculine principles are no longer my author. 2. I declare independence from comparison. Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. See my friend so-and-so is making 6 figures as I swipe through all 6 of his Instagram pictures, and I get sad from all this influence. See, I've allowed social media to be the medium by which I determine my life to only be mediocre, but that shouldn't be the case. And I'm tired of living my life by a specific timeline, based on what someone else has, to be in a certain career by a certain time, to be in a certain relationship by a certain time, just because so-and-so is. And I'm tired of my family asking me if I'm ever going to put a down payment on a house. A, we live in the San Francisco Bay Area. B, I'm trying to go to grad school. And C, we live in the San Francisco Bay Area. But yes, I am guilty of looking to what others have. What he has, what she has, but the heartache and challenges, few people put that on blast. So no more likes, no more confusion. I will come to this conclusion, to never let a social network determine my social net worth. 3. I declare independence from balding. Or at least accepting the fact that I'm balding. As white hairs begin to gentrify my head, and dark hairs begin to dissipate, the social climate of having to keep up a controlled appearance, I will no longer participate. I will no longer hide behind hats and beanies like they were shields. These feelings of insecurity I will yield. See, ultimately I declare independence from body image requirements. Those requirements that state that if I have the perfect body, the perfect look, then I will feel perfect. But shouldn't it be the other way around? So ultimately I declare independence from body image requirements to find the love within. That is the only entitlement. But let me clarify, I do like wearing hats. I still do like wearing beanies. and some of my friends have actually asked if I'm still gonna grow my hair out, I fucking can't. 4. I declare independence from unreasonable expectations of anything in life. Job interviews, first dates, performances, even the expectations I have of my friends. See, as a romantic, you know how frantic you can be when being a perfectionist backfires. To see a perfect setup of events that you hope for a perfect outcome, but life isn't perfect. See, I want to find the sweet spot between being too hopeful and too doubtful. To live each moment day by day rather than hoping for a future perfect play by play. To not allow my spirit to fracture or break. To accept that life isn't perfect and it's okay to make mistakes. See, these 4 things that I declare independence from were just 4 pieces of a bigger picture. And that bigger picture consisted of my greatest enemy. I declare this truth to be self-evident, that tonight, my greatest enemy shall no longer be relevant. See, Return of the Jedi had Emperor Palpatine. The American Revolution had King George III. I have anxiety. Anxiety is my greatest enemy. Dear anxiety, you were there to whisper in my ear as you whisked me away from reality. You showed me the darkest subliminal messages and text messages and actions. My relationships began to slip as they lost traction. You were there as I cried and cried in the darkest corners of my shadows. You convinced me I was too clumsy, not good enough, not smart enough, not the perfect body type, too foolish, not rich enough, not cool enough. Never know what it would mean to be in love or fall in love. So you convinced me that my purpose in life was not so useful. You were there to help me fantasize about my funeral. And no child should ever have to think about their funeral like that. And 16 years later, I still have the most severe of panic attacks, even before I have all of the facts. And you do your best to nurse your mind back to health. But the challenge in doing so, when the greatest enemy is yourself. It's debilitating, it's commiserating, it's instigating to look into the mirror to continue the self-hating. So I smashed that false reflection and picked up a shard of glass. And in that shard of glass, I saw a piece of myself, realizing that to find peace with myself, I had to write a piece about myself. And where I've been through with you, anxiety, see, I stand now on the bridge of your Death Star as I hear your oh-so-convenient sermons, but I will prove tonight I am no longer your obedient servant. As you come forth with your lightning to deal another frightening blow, this is the final battle, the final showdown with my foe. So I call upon the empty void, my trusty astromech droid, to give me my handy weapon, my pen, my lightsaber, that lifesaver that many times over that taught me that knowledge of self is greater. My pen, how could I have forgot? For what greater ally than to help me not waste my final shot? See, I stare into the ray of light of twin suns as they make their sunset, as I make the gambit on this planet, peaceful and serene. I've had to live in my solitude and my Tatooine, a spirit no longer torn, a passion once thought passed on is now reborn. So I'm back to writing verses, skipping the refrains. With spoken word like Obi-Wan's sword, I've gone to Dagobah to train. Inspiration awakens, and it's a force I can no longer contain. And see, there's no truth to deny. I feel the force when I am writing. See, I wanted to see how this would play out, so I wrote my way out. And in the distance, I saw chaos, and that chaos formed to become a storm. That was a hurricane. So I stared into the eye of a hurricane. Am I remiss? For I gave that storm a kiss. For we found bliss as we created poems and verses from the abyss. And I gave each of those poems and verses a name. So when push came to shove, I could rise above. And not one of them could be put to shame. For each syllable had a soul fillable with pride that your back channels could not deride. I revere this midnight ride upon a reverse slippery slope, where I avoid the splash zone of malcontent gloats. That was the hope. For no wasted shot taken. Who lives, who dies, I awaken. Who tells your story? See, I discovered, though, that this story is a story of forgiveness. Forgiveness. Can you imagine what would happen if you were to embrace your own reflection by changing your attitude's very inflection that caused the deflection of any purposeful connection, begun intention and contention? I begin a reinvention. My restitution was to begin writing a whole new constitution that constituted of a moral imperative. I choose to continue. I choose to live as I reintroduce myself into my own narrative. Anxiety, you are nothing. You are nothing but a despicable despot, a zealot. See, you're so overzealous. With my suffering you have embellished as I feel helpless, but see, your habits are reckless. Here's a problem for your wellness. In your quest to be selfish, I've left you defeated and breathless, because I have finally learned to be rebellious. Formerly yours, signed B. Adrias.